Welcome to the Vibe Fun Podcast. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me today on the podcast. My name is Wanu. Sometimes I do go by Amazing Soul. So today on the podcast, I'm going to be talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and it really showed me the power of self-acceptance. I'll start off with a beautiful quote from Carl Rogers, and the quote is, "The curious paradox is when I accept myself, then I can change." The beautiful thing about self acceptance is that most of us on our journey, it can be very challenging to really honestly accept all parts of ourselves. The reason may be because for so long we have not acknowledged, we have unconsciously suppressed parts of ourselves. And today on the podcast, I would love to share my own personal story of truly loving and accepting all parts of myself. So I'll take us back to what I call the very beginning. So when I was about 6 months old, I was in the car on a Sunday morning with my mom, and she was driving to church. And on her way to church, the car ditched into a gutter. This was back home I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. This was back home in Lagos, and the car ditched into a gutter. It was an accident. I would say it kind of stumbled, like somersaulted into the gutter. And thankfully for people who were passing by and neighbors, and not neighbors, but people who lived there and saw what happened, they helped to rescue myself and my mom. And that happened. Fast forward a few years, something started to, you know, develop on the left side of my head. If you look closely, you see like a bump, and this bump extends all the way here. When that accident happened, as I grew older, I think my skull kind of grew into it. But my parents didn't notice anything was wrong. I think they did several X-rays and they didn't see anything until maybe I was maybe like 6 or 7, that this started to really take shape. So, out of just pure love for a mother has for a child, my mom took me to several doctors to see like how they can either like um, do like an operation to help with the bump on my head. That thing happened because for some reason it did not happen, but that little accident, I won't say little, but that accident that happened when I was 6 months old redefined how I saw myself. I never fitted into the norm. I was always bullied constantly. So I'm going to show you a picture of me when I was in high school where I was constantly bullied about how I looked because I just didn't fit it. Like, there's nothing right or wrong. Well, I don't condone bullying, but I'm in a space in my life where the compassion for those kids and myself, because they're just unconscious patterns, is there. That's not absolving them of the act. It's just saying this happened and there's really no one to blame, right? But this is a picture of me. I don't know if you can see it, but this is a picture of me when I was a teenager. This was in high school. The reason why this stands out so well, if you look at you look at me like when I was in high school, that bump was more obvious because obviously we had to do like hairstyles. And that particular night, I remember It was like a group of hundreds of kids. We call it like social event night in high school. I did high school back home in Nigeria. And, someone was meant to say a joke. And, you know, the amazing kid went on stage and in front of hundreds of kids cracked cracked a joke about the shape of my head. And everyone started laughing. So imagine this teenager hearing that. I It was very, very traumatic for me. Even now, as I'm, telling you guys the story, I can still feel like a little sensation in my chest area because that event really, really took a huge toll on my how I viewed myself as a human being. And I suppressed it for so long. Also, growing up with this, now I'm sharing this story not from a place of, this happened to me and oh my God, um, this was right and that was wrong. No, I'm sharing this story with you to remind you that regardless of what stories or what experiences you had in your past, you can decide in this moment, moving forward, that that story doesn't have to define you. And if you're looking for an inspiration, probably my story can inspire you that yes, there is shame. Yes, you might have suppressed your shame over the years, and that's okay. But what are you going to do now that you're aware that shame exists? It's not right or wrong, but you're aware that there is shame. What are you going to do moving forward? And it starts with a regulated nervous system. It starts with, for me, it started with acknowledging those parts of myself. So this is another picture of me when I was a teenager. If you look closely at this picture, you will see that I can barely close my mouth. And I'll explain to you. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because there has been decades of shame in my life that I had to not try to change the story, try to feel safe in my body so I can embrace the story and accept that part of myself with love and compassion. My teeth, I had a very huge diastema. I wore braces all throughout my teenage years, even into adulthood. They had to do like a surgery for me to close my diastema because one, I had this, and my mom was like, hey, you can't have this and have a huge diastema and have a teeth shooting out. Like, come on, you're not gonna fit in anywhere. So bless her heart. So she invested in getting me the best braces you can ever think of. So I had braces for, so many years, like different types of braces, from the permanent ones to the removable ones, just to help my teeth like get in place. So, so there was that shame too. I couldn't close my mouth in pictures. Even here, I was a teenager. You can still see like my mouth was still like I could barely close my mouth. So I was dealing with this side of my head, and I was also dealing with how I looked really. And that shame was a part of me that was so suppressed for so long, and it really, really took a toll on my identity. It wasn't until probably about 3 years ago when I really, really started to understand the power of a regulated nervous system and reintegrating your inner child that I really, really started to acknowledge, those parts of myself that I felt ashamed of. And I will share this a bit, when I was in the military, so they have like regulations for hairstyles. So before then, I used to have hairstyles that would cover the left side of my head because, of course, I didn't just emotionally suppressed, I physically suppressed how I look because I didn't like what I saw in the mirror and I was trying to blend in. So these are just unconscious patterns. There's no right or wrong. And of course, in the military, that's not allowed. You have to carry, they have regulations. You have to have your hair styled in a certain way. And I'm so grateful I'm so grateful and thankful for the army because it really gave me the opportunity to look at myself just the way I was without trying to alter. And I had to pack my hair for the 3 years I served, I have to have hairstyles that will, show my whole face. And the more I looked into the mirror, then I was like, okay, this is me. This is who I am. There was just pure honesty. There was just pure openness, just pure compassion for that version of me. And right after the military, and I was medically retired from the army, and I really started to get into like my own unconscious patterns, nervous system regulation. How do I feel safe in my body today? How do I reintegrate this versions of me? This rebellious teenager who was just bullied over and over and over and over again with so much shame. How do I reintegrate this part of me into this current version of myself? This part of myself, that this teenager that had a huge time closing her mouth. Like there was just the self-image wasn't there. But I had to acknowledge all of these parts of me existed. I couldn't, you know, close one eye and be like, okay, that never existed. I'm just going to shut the door, because I understood the power of feeling safe in your body. I understood the power of reintegrating your inner child. Um, so I, started having roundtable talks, if you want to call it that, with the rebellious part. I was also a rebellious kid, and everybody went left. I was always that rebellious, curious kid. Like, why should we go? I was always asking the why questions. I want to see what's on the right. Like, why is everybody just doing this? I was that kid. It's not right or wrong, but I now in hindsight, I'm very grateful for that rebellious version of myself. Um, and I started doing like mentally, like very consciously, I started doing like roundtable talks with different versions of myself, like the rebellious part, the part that was shameful, the part that was shy, the part that didn't feel like she belonged, just my different versions of my inner child, the 5-year old, the 4-year old, the baby. I was like, you know what? Let's all have like a round table talk. Let's all sit down and talk. What's going on? Like, I want to hear your needs. Or what do you guys need from me? For the first time, I started doing this consciously about 3 years ago. And for the first time, in forever, they felt seen. Those parts of myself felt seen. And that those younger versions, like, hey, we just want you to acknowledge that we exist. You have suppressed us for so long. You have put us on the back burner. We just want a seat at the table. And that's when it just started clicking, like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Actually, I'm going to show you this. Speaking of sorry, like, I wrote behind every picture of my teenage self and my baby self, I am sorry, Wanu. Please forgive me. This was back in 2023. Like, I was very, very intentional, because I truly felt like, with honesty, like just pure honesty, not trying to fix anything, none of that. Just like, hey, I'm here. Like, I know that I haven't been the best version of myself. I know that I have suppressed. I know I have, acted like you don't exist. And, there's no right or wrong. It's just the acknowledging, the saying, I see you. I know you have unmet needs. I hear you. I validate your emotions. That alone was just like a huge transformational change in my life, because that just led to a domino effect of me starting to feel safe in my body. The regulation of my nervous system just like started to feel stabilized, because I started to reintegrate those parts of myself that, I had just suppressed for so long. And I'm really, really grateful, because I didn't just pick and choose like the good and the bad part. No, I was like, I know I was a rebellious kid. I also know I was a very kind kid. I also know I was also a very shy kid. And I just allowed all those parts of myself exist, and just I was very honest with each part of myself. And as often as I could, I gave space for them to just be. Um, you can call it reparenting yourself, but just really reintegrating my inner child and just asking myself, how can I feel safe today? How can this part of myself feel safe today? As often as it comes. And it's a never ending recursive loop. Like it's a, you know, self call. Like, okay, where is this belief coming from? What am I feeling right now? It's a just breathing and pausing, even if it's for like 2 seconds before you respond to that text, before you respond to that email. It's a, you know what? I don't have it in me right now to respond, and that's okay. It's a self non-abandonment, not abandoning yourself. It's a honest, true, just pure honesty of acknowledging that all those parts of yourself exist. And just really for me, just doing that, I started to really, it was easier to accept all parts of myself, but most importantly, um it was easier to start to love all parts of myself without, I won't say without no conditions, because being in a human body, the condition is already there. But even despite the conditions, it was easier to accept all parts of myself. I think I think I'll rather phrase it like that. And, this is me, hopefully my story reminds you or inspires you to be like, there is so much power in just asking yourself, how can I feel safe today in this moment? And there's so much power in reintegrating, your younger versions of yourself, because just that acknowledgement or that awareness that this part of myself exists has a huge effect on, transforming your life moving forward, because now you're not reliving an old script. Now you're not you're not suppressing emotions, and there's no right or wrong here, but I feel like the very first step is just being aware that those parts of yourself exist, and just showing love, like pure love for, you would like your child, or pure love for, I don't know, a kid or another. It's just pure love for even the love you show your dog, like your pet or your cat, whatever it is. Just having that same pure love for yourself, that I on my journey have seen has been so transformative. Just love. How can I show just pure love, no agenda, to myself today? And kind of like go from there with honesty, openness, not trying to control the narrative. Um, because for me also, I was always that person that tried to control things, control the outcome, and that just brought more resistance in my life. The more I just started just showing up to life like, hey, I'm open. I'm open with love. I'm here truly with an open heart for the human experience. There's really no, right or wrong. It's just whatever this breadcrumb or curiosity leads me, I'm open to see where the next breadcrumb is, because it's just like a never ending beautiful loop, or I won't say cycle, but more like a beautiful labyrinth. I like saying it's like a labyrinth, or like a circular staircase. So the more you go up, it gets deeper into more compassion for yourself, more kindness for yourself. And it's a beautiful journey, just learning to accept ourselves and fully love ourselves is such a tremendous way to really start to feel safe in our bodies, really starting to truly integrate our inner child in our lives. And I really do hope that my story inspires you, that, just a little bit of honesty, just a little bit of compassion, just a little bit of kindness on your journey can really, really start to transform your life. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm sending you so much love from my heart to yours.